Crypto kids, welcome back to another live stream where unfortunately the price of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are going to the downside. Today we're going to be covering if it's over or not. Things can appear very frustrating, things can appear very depressing, and that is the fact. Things are quite depressing, things are quite frustrating. The price of Bitcoin is now below $95,000. And when you look at the sentiment, when you explore, okay, how is the market taking this? How are the people that are in cryptocurrency? How are the people that are here on a day-to-day basis? How are they taking this? Well, if you want to see that metric is measured by the Fear and Greed Index. And if I pull that up for you, we are at the lowest level that we've been on the Fear and Greed Index, I think, in ever. So you can see that we're in extreme fear, all right? So extreme fear, we're at 16. Yesterday, we were at 15. And if you go to the Fear and Greed Index, this, if you don't know what it is, it's basically an indicator that looks at all of crypto Twitter, looks at magazine articles, looks at different things online and sort of measures the sentiment and then comes to a decision on whether if people are extremely bearish or extremely bullish. And if you're extremely bullish, then that's a good time to start taking profits. When you're in extreme bearish territory, that's usually a good time to be buying in. However, the only time where that becomes different is if you're entering into a bear market. Because when you're going to a bear market, as price stumbles to the downside, you're going to be in extreme fear all the way down until you eventually bottom out. So I know it's great to buy in extreme fear territory, historically speaking, but the only time where that is no longer the case is when price starts entering into bear market territories. And really, on today's stream, that's what I want to cover. Are we, A, going into bear market, meaning this is not a good time, in my opinion, to buy, or B, are we in a time where we should actually be accumulating? And maybe, if you have somehow money left on the side, is this a time to be adding more into existing Bitcoin positions, existing crypto positions? That's what I want to discuss on today's wonderful stream. All right. But before we go into anything in more detail, I would love to beg one more time. Yesterday, we did a lot of begging because we were live yesterday too. Guys, I would love to beg. If we can reach 60,000 subscribers on today's stream, it would be absolutely phenomenal. Can you imagine? At least something will go up. So Bitcoin, that's not going up, right? That's clearly not going up. When you go to the entire crypto industry, apart from Zcash, which I don't get it, we'll cover Zcash. Apart from Zcash, everything is down. But wouldn't it be splendid if the amount of subscribers we had on this channel went up? And wouldn't it be even crazier if we had 60,000 subscribers live? I think it would. So if you're not subscribed to the Crypto Kid channel, make sure that you are subscribed because we post daily content regardless if I'm in surgery, regardless if I'm sick. It doesn't matter. We're here every single day producing crypto content for you. And if you've not destroyed the like button yet, also make sure to destroy that like button. Let's try to get this video distributed to as many people as possible. All right, let's begin with our analysis. We did our sentiment check. We checked the sentiment. The sentiment, guys and girls, is currently in extreme fear. Now, usually when you're in extreme fear, it's always a good time to buy. And I can show you a chart from Benjamin Cohen. He's highlighted exactly why and when we've seen that point of extreme fear, how the price action of Bitcoin has been reflected. Actually, I'll show you the chart from Bitcoin Magazine. Look, you can see Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index piled on top of or put on top of the Bitcoin price. Every single time in this cycle, in this parabolic cycle, the 2022 to 2025 cycle, whenever the dots became very orange, like right over there, when we dipped into the 20Ks, that was a great time to buy. Then when Bitcoin was trading at 25, 26, also was a great time to buy. You fast forward into the Japanese yen carry trade, you dump it into 49K, you sit at the 50s, the 60s for a few months. That would have been a good time to buy. And then finally, you look at the most recent events, that was the April 2025 tariff event, where Bitcoin also went into extreme fear. If you had bought anywhere between the 100K to the 74K and held, you would have been in profits if you held. So we're seeing that extreme fear territory once more. All right, we see that extreme fear territory once more. I have two problems with the sentiment indicator. And the first problem is one, All right. If you're coming to the downside, as you're coming down, you're still going to be in extreme fear. Like the price can theoretically fall down another 20%, come to, let's say, the 72, 73 level, and you could constantly be in extreme fear all the way to the downside. So this is a good buy the dip measure, only if you're willing to, in my opinion, hold for a prolonged amount of time. If you're a short-term trader, the fear and greed index, yeah, it doesn't mean so much. And the second issue I have, like I mentioned previously, is if you're going into a bear market, also then it's quite useless because you just keep dumping exponentially. And yeah, eventually you go from extreme fear into sort of neutral and then into greed. And then you know that the sentiment has changed. Then you know the bear market is ending and now the bull market is beginning. So those two things don't really help us here in identifying, okay, is it over or not? So we need to go into other indicators. We need to look at other trend lines, other oscillators, other indicators. They will be helping us in determining if it is over or if we're still going to continue running up. All right, so let's jump into the price action. Let's jump into the technicals. The technicals will give us all of the answers that we need. And on the weekly time frame, you guys know I have two specific indicators that I absolutely love and adore. That is one, the bull and bear market support band, and number two, the 54 simple moving average. When using these two indicators in unison, magical things happen. You can time when a bear market is beginning, when a bull market is ending. So when the bear market begins, it's usually when the price falls below and closes below this purple line. And the purple line is the 54 simple moving average. You go back in times of history. We can, do we have any drawings here? Yes, we can remove these drawings. We can go back in Bitcoin's history using the Bitstamp chart. You look at Bitstamp, price of Bitcoin in 2017, you break below the 54 simple, then the bear market begins. You go to 2021, the price of Bitcoin breaks below the purple line, the 54 simple, then the bear market begins. In both instances, at least price goes back up, retests the 54 simple moving average, and then goes down. That's some hopium, even if we are breaking below it as we speak, and there's still 2 days and 11 hours until this candle closes. So maybe in the next 2 days, something crazy happens and Bitcoin makes its way all the way back into 102. But then our issue will be a CME gap. A massive CME gap will be created. So from the looks of it, like until market close tonight, that's in 6 hours. Like if we don't see Bitcoin making its way over into the 102 region, I'm going to start losing a lot of hope here. Okay, so if we see a breakdown confirmed, and it looks like that will be the case, at least we've seen from the prior two cycles that the price makes its way back, retests, and then ends up tumbling fully into lower price levels. And that could be expected. That could be something that ends up happening. I know it's not the hopium you want to hear, but it took place in the prior two cycles. I believe if we go to the Genesis cycle and go to the log scale, it's possible we may identify a similar thing taking place. Here in the Genesis cycle, it wasn't the 54, but you kind of got resistance from the bull and bear market support band instead. But the Genesis cycle is not the best to really compare because times are very, very different. But in summary, if we end up losing the 54 simple, Benjamin Cowan, he mentioned on our interview that we conducted last week, he also said that, look, if you lose the 54 simple moving average, it's very safe to say, if it's done in 2 candles consecutively, in consecutive fashion, that the bull market will sadly come to an end. And it's different. It feels horrible. You don't usually end bull markets in fear. And I get that. I get the argument that you don't usually end bull markets in fear. But if you go to the high of the bull market at 124, right? That's the highest point we've been in this cycle. At that point, we were in greed. We weren't drifting around in the 90s. I get it because retail isn't here, and retail isn't here due to monetary policy. But theoretically, you can rationalize it, and you can say that this week, if we close like this, then it could mean that Bitcoin at least comes down to the 72, 73, 74, 75. The 70s would be very viable as next support, because apart from this, right, and the highs created in 2021 and the high created in March of 2024, you don't have much support in between. You can argue that there was the neckline of the double top, which we created in November of 2024 and December of 2024. That's at like 92. However, we have a CME gap that's present at 91,960. And if you're going to come down there, then you might as well close the CME gap, right? That's the logical thing to do. You might as well close the CME gap. We knew that the CME gap here at 91,960 would have closed eventually, but like my sort of take of it was, okay, if that was to happen, then it's likely going to happen when you're going into the bear market. And I think if Bitcoin does come down to the 70s, I know Bitcoin has fallen by 50% in prior cycles, or even 40%, and then theoretically the bull market cycle wasn't over. But when you just look at the 4-year halvings, we have diminishing returns, meaning we go up less, and I think it means that we will go down less as well. For me, 70K Bitcoin would be bear market. Altcoins are already in a bear market. There's no question with that. Most altcoins are down at their bear markets 2023 levels. And then some coins like Solana, BNB, they saw good runs this cycle. Solana, by the way, coming down yesterday. We clearly mentioned that we expect Solana to trickle down into the 120s, the 110s. We're getting very close to it. Been bearish on Solana since $180. We said that we broke below critical support. I know it's hard to see, but we were expecting Solana to come down and correct to the lower band of the cup and handle, the handle part of the cup and handle. So now we're at 136. I think there's still more time to go. But in shorts, it's not a fun looking picture. It's really not a fun looking picture. We can take a look at a few more things. I think it's important that we capture as many sort of different analysis as we can capture to make a sensible decision on whether if it's over or not for Bitcoin. You can go to the weekly time frame and highlight one of the most important trend lines that Bitcoin created on the log scale. And this trend line has been keeping Bitcoin afloat since exactly the bottom of the bear markets. The only point of confusion is that candle bodies get broken in September of 2023 when you draw this linear support line. And because you break candle bodies, does it put the does it put the credibility of this support line at risk? Normally it would, but because you have other tests at other points so beautifully to this line, I'm going to say that I think this line of support is actually valid and that it's not a fraudulent line of support. It's at 4px already. Okay, so I think this line of support is important. It's a linear ascending support, and Bitcoin broke below it, and we're currently heading down. The 54 simple moving average, if we bring it up once more, that's getting broken to the downside. We were able to hold the 54 simple regardless of how much fear there was in the market. We still held above the 54 simple, and now it looks like we're not able to do that. The bearishness is just over flooding every sort of other piece of analysis that we can try to conduct to say that, yeah, there is still hopium left. Another point that Benjamin Cohen brought up was this downward sloping trend line. Downward sloping trend line, you create downward sloping trend lines. Bitcoin, again, if you were to talk about a downward sloping trend line, that's also right now being broken to the downside. Carl was mentioning a falling wedge, which is just that downward sloping trend line as support and then resistance on top. So he was talking about a falling wedge pattern on his video, and he wanted to look into potentially opening a long position if we saw a break to the upside, and then a short to the CME gap if support was broken downwards. Well, we're breaking the support downwards. You're breaking that support that also lifted Bitcoin and was able to push it to new all-time highs in prior times of this parabolic cycle. You're breaking below it. All of the consensus of support that was creating a scenario where Bitcoin wouldn't enter a bear market and continue its bull run, they're all fading away. And there's still a chance. I mean, there's still the weekly candle closure, 2 days, 11 hours time. Maybe somehow magically Bitcoin is able to make it back into 100K by the end of this week. But even if it does, you're going to create a huge CME gap. Unless that move is created within the next 6 hours time. And that to me looks a little bit unlikely. We can jump into the 1 hourly time frames and look at the 1 hourly. There is no sign of reversal. It's just a complete vomit downwards. It's just Bitcoin vomiting itself down. There is no reversal. There's no nothing. It's just us going in an inverse parabola to the downside. No signs of reversal at all. It's quite upsetting. We did predict bearishness in the market. We did expect Bitcoin to be bearish. We were concerned. We were scared. But none of us wanted to fully accept it, I think. And That's just how it is. You know, nobody ever wants to fully accept that the bull market has ended at a place where altcoins basically didn't see any significant gains. And you look at the past 365 days for Bitcoin, the last year, and you're going to be shocked by this data point. But if you go to the last 365 days, Bitcoin is only up 1.3% year to date. Can you imagine? In the last one whole year, one full year, 365 days, the price of Bitcoin is only up by 1.35%. A few hours ago, Joe Consorti, who does wonderful analysis on the Bloomberg terminal. I wish I still had my Bloomberg terminal. A few hours ago, Bitcoin was still respecting the 99, 98Ks. Right now, we're down to 94.5. But when Bitcoin was at the 99s, it was up 4.2% year to date instead of 1.3% year to date. When you compare that to the Nasdaq and the S&P 500, you know, the S&P has been up 14.5% and the Nasdaq has been up 18.9% respectively. So the S&P essentially created at least a 12 to 11x more of returns than Bitcoin over the past 365 days. The Nasdaq, well, that's almost created a 15x return compared to Bitcoin in the last 365 days. That's insane. It feels kind of crazy that that is the case. This is the post-halving year. This is Q4. This is where all the fun, excitement, euphoria should have been happening. This is where Bitcoin should have been going ballistic. But instead, you're looking at this chart, the linear line of support is being lost. And the bull run's integrity is under severe question. And today, I think that question will be answered, whether if Bitcoin is able to revive itself magically to the $100 level, or if it's going to continue floating in the 94, 95s. And if that's what it wants to do, yeah, it's going to be warning signs, bells and whistles are going to be played. And I just, I don't like what I see, and it's concerning. It's truly, truly concerning. What did we expect though? Capo, he was bullish. Kramer, he was bullish. Jamie Dimon, even from JP Morgan, ended up flipping bullish. So what did we realistically expect? When every single person that shouldn't have been bullish was bullish, did we really expect prices to continue going upwards? And then House of Crypto, great friend of mine, legend, he says, there's a problem with your thesis. James Wynn is short. And I said, I forgot, but still, you know, you have Capo, Kramer, and Jamie Dimon. That's 3-1. So I mean, they do create the majority. And unfortunately, that leads to a bearish majority. So even though James Wynn is short, Capo being bullish, Jim Cramer being bullish, then you have Jamie Dimon being bullish, like those things overshadow James Wynn's bearishness. And I can show you what Capo posted this morning at 12:05 a.m. I was laughing at night before going to bed. He said, same as yesterday, this looks more like a bear trap than the start of a bearish continuation leading to the Black Swan event, which he still thinks will happen, which should happen over the next few weeks, but not just yet. A reclaim of 100K would be the confirmation for another test of liquidity at 105K to 110K. You know what? Now that I'm reading this with a little bit more clear head, a bit more of a clear and awake head, because I read this analysis at like 1 a.m. in the morning after streaming and going home. That was a wonderful stream, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I do agree, like if we are able to magically now run above 100K, then all of our problems will drift. But unless you're able to produce a move into 100K, to me, it's just depression. It's just depression and price going to the 70Ks in the next couple of, I would say 1, 2, 3 months would be an ideal time frame. Yeah, it sucks, doesn't it? I'm going to check the chat because I didn't give any love to the chat. Let me give the chat some love. How are you guys doing? How are you guys feeling? What can I do for you? Is there anything that I can do for you that's going to make you feel better? Let's go over the chats. Thank you so much for the likes. I think we're at 100 likes. I think we should be. Yes, 101, guys. Amazing. Thank you so much. I've never doubted you. Don't forget Carl Moon saying 300K big. Look, you know, we do have bets. We made a bet with Carl. We said that, hey, if Bitcoin doesn't go to 300K, that was my bet, then Carl owes me $25,000. And then I said, okay, if Bitcoin does go to 300K and above, I owe you $25,000. We made this bet a couple of months back. And then we decided, okay, whoever wins, we're going to donate it to charity. And clearly, Bitcoin is nowhere near $300,000. So, guys, if you have any charities that you like specifically, then make sure to let me know in the comments, and we'll do a very big donation to that charity at the end of the year. Queen Bloomberg, yes. I love Bloomberg, dude. Bloomberg is awesome. I have not slapped, says Queen. Have some sats on me for the DC. Dude, you're a legend. I don't have any, I don't know how you guys still have money to buy. I don't. So I'm just sitting and watching it bleed. That's all I can do. Ethereum at $3,086. We're almost closing the wick. As you guys know, we said that Ethereum will close that massive wick that it created on last week's candle. It's just when you're in the midst of a range, when you create significant wicks like this one, like these ones, like this one, that one, this one, they all close. They all end up closing. Whenever you create significant wicks, price just goes down and closes all of those. The only time where you don't close wicks are when you're at the top of a trend and the bottom of a trend. So this wouldn't close and this wouldn't close. But if you've created a wick within the middle somewhere, then it's very likely that the price will come down and close that wick. And that's what we're doing. We said it would do that when Ethereum was at 3.4. Now it's at 3,080. And we're hitting the 54 simple moving average. Another point we mentioned that Ethereum would do is Bitcoin has already done that, and it's failing below it. And we're now at $94,700, hanging on for dear life. What's the next support? Well, technically, in the immediate, if we look at the immediate price action, the next level of support for Bitcoin is 93,674. But you do have that CME gap at around 92K. And I'm a believer that if we come down that far, then we might as well just go and close that CME gap. So I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin hit $92,000 and close that CME gap. We can also do some Fibonacci analysis, draw a nice retracement, look at where the golden pocket is, and guess what? The golden pocket is sitting perfectly around that support from price action, neckline of the double top, created back in November, December of 2024. And also the CME gap, that's lying right now at the golden pocket. And to me, the 92K looks probable if we continue seeing a drop downwards. Friend, how much in percentage do you have in fiat and in Bitcoin? I've been changing up my portfolio over the past weeks. I do still have about 50% of my portfolio in Bitcoin, roughly 10% in Ethereum and other large caps. But Ethereum is no, actually it's about 15%. So 15% in Ethereum and other large caps. That takes you to 65%. 5% in just investments, seed investments, private investments that I've done as an angel investor, and the remainder 30% should be in about USDT. That is roughly the percentage split in my portfolio. I would have ideally wanted to have more cash at the moment, but it's painful to sell things that you believe in, and that is Bitcoin. CME gap will be filled, but only a small net cap bounce. Bear market will last until October 2026. Quite interestingly, when we did our show last night, I did a poll in the chat saying, okay, are you guys bullish or are you guys bearish? 60% of the voters were bullish and only 40% of the voters were bearish. So now today, after 24-ish hours, I'm curious to know if that has changed dramatically. So while you guys do me a favor and hit that subscribe button so that at least something goes up, at least some number is going to the upside, some chart is going to the upside, I'm going to create a poll in the live chats. And we're going to see if you guys are still bullish or a lot of you have flipped bearish today following the drop. So as you guys destroy that subscribe button, I'm going to go over to our live show, live stream, and make sure that we do a poll. All right, so how can I actually do the poll? We did have this issue yesterday. Okay, I think I may need to create the poll. I think we need to create the poll manually from here. There we go. Poll. Start a poll. Question. My question is, are you bullish or bearish? First answer, bullish. Second answer is going to be bearish. All right. And the poll, ladies and gentlemen, is live. There you go. You can start voting. You can vote away. You can vote away. Guys, no, don't do this. Don't unsubscribe. Don't unsubscribe. Please, it would be awesome if we can reach 60,000 subscribers. That would be amazing. Imagine if we do that live. That would be crazy. Okay, we're back. We're back. We're back. We're so back. We're so back. We're so back. We're so back. Okay, 59,905. 06? No. Okay. 6. There you go. We got it. We got it. Okay. That's going to slowly go to the upside, I feel. Bitcoin, it's rebounding a little bit. 95.3. 95.3. Well, whilst you guys are voting, let's quickly check the altcoin market too. Altcoin market is hanging on for dear life. It can't fall anymore because a lot of these coins are just down. There isn't much more that these altcoins can really drop down towards. How are the votes looking like? Whoa, today people are more bearish. It's 50-50. 50-50. Very interesting. Guys, by the way, if you're looking for free money, if you want to get some sort of free money whilst prices are going to the downside, if you use the first link in the description down below, you're going to be forwarded to this incredible campaign page where if you don't have a Weeks account and if you sign up using the sign up button, it takes less than a minute to sign up. Email address, password, boom. If you link your phone number to your account and settings, you're going to be eligible. This is only if you're a new user and you're not in one of the restricted countries. You'll be eligible for a $10 to $100 worth of coupon to use in your trading. So guys, if you don't have an account yet, make sure to create your account on Weeks and at least you can get some free money to trade with. And then if you deposit, I didn't know that there was more. We figured this out yesterday ourselves. If you deposit $10,000 and achieve a trading volume of 5 million, you'll get an $800 futures bonus. And I think you can claim all of these simultaneously if you get to that level. Let me know if you do. I think that would make sense. So I'm unfortunately not able to do the bonus because I already have an account. But you guys can, but they have so many other cool bonuses. If you deposit $1,000 only and achieve a $100,000 trading volume, which it's super easy to achieve, at least, I mean, if you trade, let's say 2-3 times a week, then that should be sufficient to achieve that bonus. And that will give you a 100 USDT futures coupon to, again, use in your trading, and all the profits that you make will be redeemable and withdrawable. So if you don't have an account yet, first link in the description, 2 weeks will get you those bonuses. And Pinex is where I'm doing my trading bots, where I'm buying the dip on things like Solana. As Solana continues to drop to the downside, my bot is accumulating. And then when it sees the reversal, it's going to sell. So if you want to check out Pinex, it's the second link. They also have a pretty cool deposit and get a bonus campaign running with the second link in the description down below. Bullish. We're still bullish. 185 votes. We're still bullish, guys. We're still hanging on for dear life. The sentiment by just 4% is still bullish over bearish. Cool. Okay, we're still looking fine. I'll end the poll. Yesterday was 60-40. Today is 52-48. Nice. It could be worse. It could definitely be worse. I want to go ahead and do a quick run on breaking news, see if there's anything that we missed. Okay, there was this rumor in crypto Twitter that Saylor was selling his Bitcoin. I want to debunk this myth. Saylor is not selling Bitcoin. This is just a risk management wallet transfer. Okay, so they're just changing up their wallets. They're not selling their Bitcoin. So anybody that thinks that Saylor is selling, he is not selling his Bitcoin. Don't be afraid. Saylor is not selling his Bitcoin. That's one thing. We covered those things on yesterday's stream. Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo is adding more Bitcoin. Okay. Doesn't seem to be changing the price much. Just checking the breaking news to see if there's anything I missed. Yeah, there's nothing really new. We just got some insight. The CPI data is likely not going to be released. We covered why that's horrible on yesterday's show, but nothing new to justify the crash at the moment. How's the chat looking like? Good news. Ethereum RSI is at 20. I saw Ben speak about the RSI analysis. Let's have a look at the Ethereum RSI. So usually Ethereum bottoms the RSI at about the 41 mark. That, yeah, okay. So theoretically, this is when Ethereum is at, Or was that Bitcoin? Was it Bitcoin that he looked into? Yeah, it was Bitcoin. Pardon me, guys. It wasn't Ethereum. It was Bitcoin. So there's a very clear support on RSI that Bitcoin does tend to hold over on the weekly time frame, and currently we're breaking below it. So sorry to bring you even more bad news, but you can see that during the support line being held by the 54, by the linear ascending support, etc., the RSI was also kept bullish. So back in September of 2023, the RSI held the 44 mark. And then in August of 2024, in the Japanese yen carry trades, the RSI also held the 44 mark. In the April 2025 tariffs, the RSI also held the 44 mark. But you look at price action now, and we have definitely plunged below it. That's a clear breakdown. Again, the weekly candle could change. So it's all going to be reliant on how the next 2 days and 10 hours shape up. But if this is how you close, it's not good. It's going to lead to worse price action in the intermediate term. So thank you so much for shouting at the RSI. Shout out to Nikhil for tuning in as well. If Bitcoin goes to another all-time high, does that mean the cycle is broken, says the track hurts? Well, that's a good question. Theoretically, no. Bitcoin can go to an all-time high. I would say all the way up to like the first week of January, and the cycle would still remain intact. So if Bitcoin creates a new all-time high, let's say in the second week of January, then I think, that would clearly state that the cycle is broken. Satoshi is asking for the Ichimoku. So we'll take a look at the Ichimoku, and then we'll call it an evening on the CryptoGate channel. Then in roughly about, I think in about 1 hour's time, we have a stream on the Moonshow channel in half an hour's time. So I'll call it a day here after the Ichimoku analysis. And if you want more, then you can go to the Moonshow channel. In half an hour, I have a stream upcoming. Ichimoku, that was a balloon. We have a children's day in the office. That was a balloon that popped in the background. Okay, Ichimoku looks interesting. If we take a look at Ichimoku, let's remove the brushes from the charts. When we go into the Ichimoku analysis, We're currently into the Komu. We're entering the Komu. The Komu is the cloud, and the cloud is between this green and the red line. That's called the Komu in Ichimoku. We're coming into the Komu. The Komu does give you support. The Komu does give you support. You got support right here in 2024, August. You got support in about September of 2023. But as you can see, I know it's very tough to see. It's very, very tough to read and understand. But as soon as you broke into the Komu cloud, that was over for Bitcoin 4 years ago. So if Bitcoin is to enter into this Komu clouds, then it's going to be over, unfortunately, based off of what we've seen in prior history. But guys, I'm going to end it off here, okay? In 30 minutes time, I'm going to go live again over on the Moonshow channel. If something crazy happens, then I'll make another video update. No issues at all. Make sure to subscribe. Were we able to reach 60,000 subscribers? I don't think so. I think we got close. But I'm sure over the next 1-2 days, we'll be able to hit that 60K target. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you destroy the like button. And with that said, guys and girls, I'll see you all on